Hi, thank you for joining me today. It's Geraldine from the Paper Puffin Studio, and today I'm going to show you how to make this folding shutter type card that is a masculine type of Valentine's Day card. This card measures 6 inches by 6 inches when it's folded up, so you'll need an envelope that can accommodate that size of card. When you open it, it opens like this and goes on display like this. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get started. Let's begin by reviewing all of the pieces that you're going to need to build this card. You'll need a base color cardstock measuring 6 inches by 10 inches. You'll need several pieces of a coordinating color. You'll need 2 pieces that are 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and you'll need 7 pieces, each measuring 1 7/8 by 1 7/8. You're going to need some designer series paper. I've chosen 3 different patterns for this. So I have 2 pieces, each measuring 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches. I have 4 pieces of another DSP measuring 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, and then 3 additional pieces of a different designer series paper, again measuring 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. For stamping the images and the sentiments, I've got 1 piece of vanilla cardstock measuring 3 5/8 by 3 5/8. I've got a piece that I'm going to be cutting out using a die cut. This measures 1 inch by 3 inches. I've got another piece that measures 2.5 by 2.5, and I'm going to be using this die to cut this image out. And then I have a piece of the coordinating cardstock measuring 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, and I'm going to be using this die cut to cut that out. These 2 die cuts are coming from the Stitched Shape labels. This is the largest square and this is the second to largest square. Now we're ready to do the scoring. So taking my largest piece of cardstock, which again measured 6 inches by 10 inches, I'm going to place the 10-inch edge along the top of my trimmer, and I'm going to be scoring at 4 inches, and then again at 6 inches. Now with these 2 score lines done, I'm going to turn my paper so that the 6-inch edge goes along the top, and I'm going to be scoring now at the 2-inch mark. I'm going to be scoring from the top here to the second score line. So from the top to the second score line. Now I'm going to take my paper and flip it around 180 degrees. And I'm going to repeat that same thing. So I'm going to line this up at 2 inches, and I'm going to score down to the second score line, which remember was at the 6-inch mark. Now I've got a couple of more score lines that I need to make. So to show you the way the paper is scored so far, I've got a line here and a line here, and then I've got these 2 lines vertically down. I'm going to be needing another score line here and another one down here. So to do that, I'm going to place my paper back into the cutting machine with the 10-inch edge along the top. I'm going to be lining it up at 2 inches, and I'm going to score from the top down to that score line at the 2-inch mark. I'll stop, and I'll have this score line made. Now I'm going to turn my paper 180 degrees, and I'm going to repeat that again. So placing the paper into the trimmer at the 2-inch mark, I'm going to be scoring from the top of the paper to this score line, which is at 2 inches. Now I've got all of the scoring done. You'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 smaller blocks, and then the 2 larger ones. Now to show you for the cutting of the paper, I'm taking the 6-inch edge and placing it along the top of my trimmer. I'm going to be lining it up at 4 inches, and I'm going to be placing my cutting blade at the 2-inch mark, and I'm going to cut from 2 inches down to 6 inches. So again, 2 inches to 6 inches for that cut. Now I'm going to take the paper out, turn it 180 degrees, and I'm going to repeat that again, lining it up at 4 inches with my cutting blade lined up at the 2-inch mark. I'm cutting from 2 inches to 6 inches. You then can see that you get these 2 cuts in your paper. At this point, we're ready to fold and burnish the card along the score lines. So to do that, I'm going to be orienting my paper like this. I've got 3 of the smaller squares here and a larger square here. I'm going to be folding this second score line in as a valley. And as I do that, I'm going to be folding, when you see this side, you've got 3 squares. I'm going to be folding this piece up as a mountain. So valley and a mountain, and what will happen is I can pinch the card and cause it to close like this. So I'll review that one more time. You've got your 2 cut lines here, the larger square here and a larger square here. You want this second score line from the bottom to be a valley, and you want this score line second from the top on the right to be a mountain. As you do that, the paper will naturally close like this. Then you're ready to burnish nicely along these edges. You do that on the front of the card, then flip the card over and repeat on those folded edges. You'll then see that your card will open like this. Now I'm ready to go ahead and attach all of the designer series paper to the cardstock. So I'm going to be attaching these larger pieces together and then these smaller pieces. I'll go ahead and glue those, and then we'll pick up there. Now that all of the designer series paper has been attached to the cardstock, I'm now ready to attach all these pieces to the front of my card. Just keeping in mind that if you have directional paper, you want to make sure that your designer series paper is lined up the way you want it. Because I have maps and globes, I want to make sure that they are right side up. I'll go ahead and attach all of these pieces like this. I'll also point out that when I attached this coordinating DSP, there were 3 pieces of that, so I put that down this diagonal center, and then the other pieces were on either side. Now that I have all of the designer series paper and the cardstock attached to the base of the card, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my image for this block and my images for this block. To do that, I've selected a series of different stamps. So I'm going to be using this one here, which is a retired set, Sky is the Limit. I'm using this image, as well as the clouds. I'm going to be using the sentiment, You Send Me Soaring, as well as the airplane. For the sentiments, I'm using the word love, which will get stamped inside of a banner. And then I'm using this heart with It's in the Air as well. And that's from the Blooming Love. And then finally, from the number of years, I'm going to be stamping the image of this banner. That's where the word love will go. And then I'll cut it out using the coordinating die. I'll go ahead and do all of that, and we'll pick up there. I went ahead and stamped the images that I wanted, as well as the sentiments. And I just want to point out that for this airplane and this heart behind it, this heart stamp is much larger than I wanted it to be. So I just masked over the airplane when I stamped it, and then I used a little marker to close off this so that it looked finished. I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the front here just with some snail glue, and then for these pieces, after cutting them out using the die cutting machine, I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals onto this black background and attach it to here. And then I'm going to pop the love up on dimensionals as well and attach it here and put a couple of little embellishments on there. I'll go ahead and finish this off and we'll pick up there. And here we have the finished card. You can see that it folds flat like this, but for mailing you would close it and it will measure 6 inches by 6 inches. So you're going to need an envelope that will accommodate that size of card. When you display it, it displays like this. I've made another one as well, which is more of a feminine type of Valentine's Day card. And so here's the other one that I made. The same type of card, just with different colors and different designer series paper. And so it closes like this and goes on display like this. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.